the initial policy or war aim of the Lincoln administration was to restore the Union as it had existed before the creation of the Confederacy. Well, how do you do that? Do you do that by defeating Confederate armies but conciliating the civilian population? Do you do that by leaving slavery alone? Do you do that by protecting civilian property, including slaves? Do you do that by just recapturing the forts that the Confederacy has seized, like Fort Sumter? And then, you know, appealing to the kind of latent unionism of the Southern people? Well, this was a great debate within Union strategy, and at first the Union pursued what were really kind of a limited war strategy. We'll defeat their armies, and then maybe they'll come back into the Union. That didn't work. We'll invade their territory and gain control of some of these 750,000 square miles of Confederate territory. And that actually happened in the early months of 1862. Capture of New Orleans, the capture of Nashville, the capture of Memphis, the capture of most of Tennessee, much of the lower Mississippi Valley, the gaining control of the river networks in the Western Confederacy, gaining control of the coastal areas of the South Atlantic coast of the Confederacy. But the war goes on. And the policy of conciliating Southern civilians while trying to defeat Confederate armies doesn't seem to be working. Southern civilians don't want to be conciliated. And so gradually, the Lincoln administration's national strategy and military strategy grow more thoroughgoing, more radical, more destructive. Lincoln at first wants to conciliate the border state slaveholding unionists. So he doesn't want to touch slavery. And when General Fremont issues a military order emancipating the slaves of Confederate supporters in Missouri, Lincoln squashes it. When General Hunter in May 1862 issues a military order declaring the slaves in the South Atlantic states free, Lincoln squashes that. But finally, Lincoln decides that slavery is not only at the root of this war, but slavery is the basis of the Confederate economy. Slave labor provides the logistical infrastructure of Confederate armies. Conciliating Southern civilians hasn't seemed to work. Leaving slave property alone doesn't seem to have caused Southern civilians to be sympathetic to the Union. Conquering Southern territory and occupying cities like New Orleans and Memphis and Nashville doesn't seem to be working. So he moves toward what was called a hard war, or even total war, rather than conciliation, by the policy of emancipation, by the policy of trying to destroy Confederate armies, and by 1864, the policy of destroying all kinds of Confederate economic resources in campaigns like Sheridan's campaign in the Shenandoah Valley, Sherman's march through Georgia, and then through the Carolinas. The only way we're going to win this war is to completely destroy the ability of the Confederate states to wage war, destroy their property, destroy any property that can be used to wage war against the United States, and that includes slave property. So Union policy goes from our Union strategy. Union policy is always the same. But the national strategy and the military strategy evolve in a far more total and radical way during the course of the war. So the bottom line of that is that you've got this kind of progression in Union strategy from a limited war to an almost unlimited war.
This excerpt is brought to you by the Massachusetts School of Law, the leader of reform in legal education and a leader in multimedia education for the public. To view the full interview and for a full listing of MSL's programs, log on to mslaw.edu.